Hey guys, Trev the Grey here again with another awesome battle report. This time, Warhammer Fantasy, so we're switching it up a little bit after all the 40k shenanigans I've been doing over the past couple of weeks. I did get to play a game of Fantasy on Columbus Day, which was a big deal because I haven't played Fantasy in weeks and weeks, so I'm feeling a little rusty. But I was told about a fan, I was contacted by a fan. That actually sounds sort of weird because I guess I do have fans somewhere. And he told me about a gaming store not too far away from me, and so I headed down on Columbus Day to play a game or two of Fantasy, and I did get one game in, which was very exciting. This game is 2,000 points against Empire. We're just playing a straight up battle line scenario, I guess you could call it, and nothing special. My opponent did tell me that he was very new to 8th edition, very new to Fantasy. He hadn't played the game since 6th edition, so a lot of changes, obviously. And he'd never played Empire before. Obviously, this game is against Empire. And so, as you can see, his army has just been finished assembling. They were joking in the game store that it was a fully painted army of Beastmen versus a fully unpainted army of Empire. So we'll see who wins this bout, unpainted army. So obviously I didn't bring a particularly tough list, at least by my standards. I had no crazy herdstone shenanigans, no huge numbers of Minotaurs, nothing crazy like that. Just 2 units of 30 Gores. I think one has an extra guy because I had the points left over. A unit of 40 Ungores with spears. A unit of 5 Minotaurs with additional hand weapons, and then a Gore Bull to go in there, along with a Beast Lord, a War Gore Battle Standard Bearer, and 2 Shamans, a Great Bray Shaman, Combat Great Bray Shaman, because I thought it would be fun. I enjoy combat GBS when they work. Normally they don't. They'll just probably get popped off by shooting or by a more powerful character or whatever. But when they do work, they are very fun to play with. And I figured because it was a friendly game and against a newer player that I would run something like that rather than a crazy casty shaman. And then I just have a level 1 shaman just to add some wild form power in there. Obviously both of my shamans are using Lore of Beasts because I enjoy it so much. I've been thinking of playing a little bit more with Lore of Shadows, but I haven't really gotten the chance because this is the only game of Fantasy, that I've played in quite a while. So my opponent, he's got a very shooty list, and I really wasn't prepared for the amount of magic he was going to bring to the table. He has 2 level 2s using Shadow. He has a level 4 using Death, and he did roll up the Purple Sun of Xerius, so that was going to be very tough for me to deal with. And honestly, at this point, I'd expected to lose a majority of my troops before I got into combat. So I was almost starting on the back foot in this game because I really was not prepared for the amount of offensive power he could bring to me early on. He's also, because he has Empire, he's brought 2 units of 10 handgunners. He's brought 2 war machines, a Hellblaster volley gun, and a cannon, and then 2 units of infantry, a unit of swordsmen, and a unit of spearmen. And he has also got a unit of 10 great swords, although they're modeled up with hammers because I guess he's going with the I'm going to go with Ulrich theme. I don't remember all the names of the crazy Empire gods, but he's the one with the wolves and all the hammers and all that shenanigans. And then he's got a unit of knights, and they also have hammers as well. They didn't have lances. They had great weapons, which was a new thing, I guess. And then he had a Templar Grandmaster in the unit of knights, which was his general, which I thought was an interesting choice. Obviously, an Arc Lector or something is a much more popular choice, and having a combat general in that unit of knights is going to remove his leadership bubble from the rest of his army, which is something that's really going to hurt Empire because they do have a very average leadership value. And then he also has just a Battle Standard Bearer, and I believe that is everything. This photo is actually after my first turn. I ended up winning the roll to go first because I had less deployments than my opponent, and I just ended up moving up basically straight, not much craziness going on in deployment. I think the Minotaurs are going to go in and try to chop up some infantry on my left flank there. He put his knights down last, so unfortunately I don't have a lot of things that can counter them on that flank, but hopefully I'll be able to put a Gore unit into them or put the Ungores into them and just hold them up for the game until I can get at them with my Minotaurs, or I'll just hold them up and they'll not be able to make their points back. So we'll see how it goes at the end of turn 1. Okay, here's the end of round two. As you can see, everything's moved up basically. Done a little shuffle, get closer to the enemy. Um, in my turn, I basically just moved up. I cast Curse of Anrahir on the knights to stop them from moving because if they do decide to move, they count everything as dangerous terrain and fail on a one or a two. So because dangerous terrain tests don't allow any armor saves, I figured that if he did decide to move or possibly charge my units, I could hopefully get one or two of them out of the way before I actually got into combat, which would be great. Or I could just prevent them from charging and just stop that and get a couple more turns of moving up unopposed. So other than that, my turn was pretty eventful, just moving my troops up. In my opponent's turn, he cast some more magic. He recast Purple Sun, which caused the Purple Sun that was sitting next to his lines to go away, which is good for him. He successfully cast it, but he cast it with Irresistible Force. So that's the second miscast of the game. He ended up killing a number of his handgunners. I believe the unit of handgunners that the wizard is in right now is down to 3 because a couple were hit by the Purple Sun earlier. And he got the Blast Template miscast, which killed a number of more models, so that was really too bad for him. And this game is becoming just a magical, crazy fest of just spells going all over the place and killing everything, no matter what side it was. In my magic phase, his Purple Sun scattered because they do scatter in the magic phase, as I was informed, I guess. So it scattered onto his swordsman and killed, I think, 6 or 7 of the swordsmen. So spearmen. The spearmen that are right next to the wizard in the center of the photo there. So, well, left-hand side of the photo. So that was another misfortune for my opponent because his magic is basically doing more damage to him than it did to me. But this time it did go off successfully, even though he did miscast, and it went right through the Minotaurs and right through the Ungors. I believe it killed 6 Ungors, and it did, as you can see, wipe out 2 Minotaurs. He did another wound to the Gorbel with his shooting in his shooting phase. And then he fired a cannonball that went right through the Ungors and hit the Bray Shaman that was hiding behind them, killed him outright. So unfortunately, I've lost a Bray Shaman, taken a wound to my Gorbel, and then I lost a couple of Gors as well, and Ungors, not to mention them, but we don't really care about them. They're just Ungors. So that's what's going on this turn. Battle has not yet been joined, but it's going to happen pretty soon, so stay tuned for some blood. Okay, here's the end of round 3. Battle has finally been joined on both sides, and things have started dying, so... Well, more things anyway, things that weren't killed by our own magical spells. So, yeah, it's going down now. As you can see, my Minotaurs charged in. They charged into the Great Hammers, as I like to call them. There were only 11 of them, so the Minotaurs had no problem wiping them out, killing them very easily. And because they always struck last, the Minotaurs would just go first, just kill the whole unit. And then they were fortunate enough to roll the appropriate charges to hit the unit of spearmen that was beyond the great swords. They were just at the right angle to just clip them. So they hit the flank there. In my opponent's turn, we had another round of combat, and the Minotaurs were able to wipe out that unit of spearmen. So very good turn of events for the Minotaurs. They were able to kill 2 units in 1 round, basically, which obviously gives them 2 extra attacks, and it just makes them awesome, even more awesome. In my opponent's turn, he was able to charge into my unit of Gors there with his knights. I considered fleeing, but I figured at this point the knights had a pretty good chance of running down the unit of Gors anyway, and because they were below half strength, there was a pretty good chance that they were not gonna be able to rally. So I figured I might as well hold and try to do a couple wounds, hopefully get some dice out of the Jagged Dagger before my Bray Shaman dies. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to do any wounds. My opponent killed most of the Gors, and now there's just the command and the Great Bray Shaman hiding in that unit that are running away. And they're going to need double ones to rally because they are below half strength, which is too bad. Other than that, some shooting, pulled out some of my Gors from my center unit, and that was pretty much it. So an eventful turn, to say the least. Here's the end of round 4. As you can see, lots more has happened. In my turn, I basically just charged in the Beast Lord and his buddies into one of the units of handgunners, and I charged the Minotaurs into the flank of the other unit of handgunners to do some damage. And then I reformed the Ungors with a swift reform and marched them up right in front of the knights, as you can see. Um, and then combat wise, my Gores and Minotaurs. Well, the Minotaurs killed the unit that they were in combat with. Although they failed, they were unable to kill the my opponent's wizard, unfortunately, and they ended up overrunning into the unit of handgunners um, that the what'd you call it? The Gores. Sorry, wow, mind burp. Um, they were able to overrun into the unit of handgunners that the Gores were in combat with and wipe that out as well. Because if they do overrun into a unit that that the combat that has not been conducted yet, then they do get to strike. So I easily wiped that unit out. Although the enemy wizard is still fleeing. I believe he's right next to the cannon there, if you can see him. And then in my opponent's turn, he charged the knights into the Ungors. I figured that I had enough models to hold him up for a couple turns. And then basically he turned his swordsman around to face my troops, took a shot with his cannon, which I believe missed, and then he cast Soul Blight with the wizard. And now Soul Blight, he cast the boosted version, which I guess affects all models within 24 inches. So all of my models were at -1 strength and toughness, which was a big deal. I lost a number of Ungors, more than I would have normally to the knights, where I was not able to do any wounds in return, but I was steadfast anyway, so it didn't really matter. And that's the end of that turn. Okay, so here's the end of turn 5. As you can see, my troops are just moving up towards that last little nugget of points that's hiding in there in the corner. I did make a bit of a tactical error in my turn. I declared a charge with my Gores on my opponent's Wizard Lord. Unfortunately, that brought the Gores out of the general and BSB range of the Ungors, which they were really counting on to pass their steadfast break test while fighting the Knights, which is something I didn't think about at the time. I did consider charging out just one of my characters, but instead of charging the whole unit, and then that would allow the unit to march further. But in hindsight, that would have allowed the cannon to fire at the character and possibly kill it and give my opponent a number of points. This way, they do get the 2+ lookout, sir, and are probably safe from the cannon. So I decided not to do that. My opponent's general fled from the charge, fled through the cannon. The cannon was fine, and he ended up far away from me and not really able to do anything. But I was likewise not able to do anything to him, so that was unfortunate. And that means I probably will only be able to get the cannon before the end of the game. In my turn, the Ungors were able to hold, despite the fact that they weren't in combat. They weren't in the range of the general and BSB. I believe they killed 2 knights, but in the next round of combat, they did lose combat, and they were steadfast, but they didn't have enough leadership to be able to hold. So they were run down at the end of my opponent's turn, which left basically just the general, the knights, the cannon, and the Minotaurs, and the Gores on the board. As my Great Bray Shaman and her unit had run off the board a couple turns ago. So, yeah, turn 6, let's see how it goes. Okay, here's going to be the last photo of the game. As you can see, the Gores charged the cannon, were able to wipe it out. The Minotaurs didn't do anything, and I believe they shuffled around a little bit. And the Gores were able to kill the cannon. Just the Beast Lord killed the cannon, actually. And then they overran an inch away from my opponent's general, and then he just moved out of the way and tried to purple sun down their flank, but I believe I dispelled it. And then his knights just shuffled around, but it was the last turn of the game. Nothing was really going to happen. So yeah, it was a good game. Obviously, very close at the end. I think it came down to about 300 points in my favor. So a very close game. Obviously, I was completely unprepared for the amount of magic that my opponent would bring to the table. But the dice rolling sort of evened it out. We both had terrible miscasts. I believe there was something ridiculous like 5 miscasts or something in the whole game. My Bray Shaman had power drained herself at one point, in addition to all the templates going around, and just the misfires on the purple sun were really devastating to my opponent. I doubt my Minotaurs would have been able to get down that flank as if the Hellblaster was still there, firing at them all game. But that did make for a really good game. Obviously, we both had some bad luck. Probably my opponent a little worse than I had. But it's a dice game. That's how it works. So, yeah. First time playing Empire in a while too, so that was cool to see another a human army on the board rather than all the Warriors of Chaos and Lizardmen and High Elves you see all over the place, all these big power armies. It was really nice to see toughness 3, strength 3 army that wasn't ridiculously completely powerful. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this battle report. It was a fun game to play, and it was fun to report. So I hope it's fun to watch as well. That will be all for today, folks. Trevor the Great out.